Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. This is a follow-up video of our portal customization guide. In the previous video, we took a look at how to customize your API-matic portal so it is more reflective of your branding. In this video, we're going to explore the documentation settings section and cover all the changes that we can make via this section to customize your API documentation. So we're going to use the API-matic calculator sample API, press the edit docs button over here. And here we should have the documentation settings menu. Here we have all of these settings and we're going to go through these one by one today. The first option we have is the available languages section. This section allows you to change settings related to the languages you made available for your API on the portal. As of now, API-matic provides the option for 7 languages. Your API-matic portal needs to have at least one language enabled on it. Hence, the HTTP language is enabled by default. And this cannot be altered unless you enable some other language, in which case you can go ahead and disable HTTP as well. The only option that we have within the HTTP language is to rename HTTP to REST, and as the name indicates, that is going to do exactly what it says. So at any point, if you want to see how these changes reflect on your portal, you can just press save and press preview. As soon as you press preview, we're going to render the portal for you and then show you how it's going to look like. So if we go into the portal and we look at it in a little more detail, we can see that the HTTP language has now been renamed to REST. Alright, so since there's a significant amount of overlap within the settings across all of the languages, we're just going to take a look at the .NET language for now. So the first option within the .NET language is the option to be able to enable that language. Once you've enabled the .NET language, the other option is to enable downloading the source code or the SDK files, right? So let's just take a quick look at how that looks like. We're going to go on over to the .NET section from our portal. And here you can press the Get SDK button and the API-matic portal will let the user download the source code as a zip file. The other option is the option to add a custom link. So here you can add any link where you might be hosting your SDK files, and then the API-matic portal will either redirect the user or will try to get the files from there ourselves. The third option that you have here is called the SDK source code repository link. So here, if you have your SDK is hosted on GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, anything, you can add the link here, press save, and then once you press preview or you go on over to that section, the download section, so then that is going to look a little different now. So once you press the Get SDK button, you can either view source or you can just download the SDK directly from that link. The third option, and this is the option that we recommend, is that you publish your packages to the language's respective package management platform. So for example, .NET, it's NuGet. So once you've published your package, you can come here and add details of the package. For example, I'll call it API-matic calculator in version 1.2 for our example. So you're going to add it here, and once you've added it in this section, right, you're going to press save and we're going to press preview, and we're going to see how that looks like, right? So if you go on over to the .NET section now and you press the Get SDK button, we have an installation instruction section here, and here we've automatically generated the details on how to install your package. And by the way, here at API-matic, since we're champions of API adoption, right, we recommend using the publish packages option because we think that this is the best option to publish your packages and get them to your users. So guys, that was it for the available languages section. And like I mentioned, since all of these settings are common across all of these languages, so you can just follow the guide for .NET and you should be good to go for all of the other languages as well. API-matic offers 7 total languages, and the languages being available to you in this section depends on your subscription as well. Moving on to the next section, we have the API Explorer section here. Here we have 2 main options. The first one is called the Enable API Calls. So just to show you how that looks like, we're going to generate the portal and come on over to the rest section. And here we're going to select an endpoint, and this section allows you, so here we can make a call to the API endpoint. by pressing the try it out button. But if you would like to disable this functionality, what you're going to do is you're going to toggle this option off. Once you've toggled it off, a user will not see this button. They will not be able to create a successful API call. The second option is the use API-matic proxy for API calls. This is by default on. So the reason you might end up needing to use this option is to circumvent the cross-origin resource sharing error, which is a common error that you might get while trying to make your API call. So we recommend keeping this on, or you can also try to experiment with this, see if turning it off helps you in any way. So we're just going to save, preview, and look at how the REST API-matic playground section looks like now. Go on over to an endpoint. And as you can see, with the option turned off, the user no longer has an option to create a successful API call. So the next setting that we have in the documentation settings is called the API spec export. This option allows a user to be able to download your API spec file in all of these formats. So you can enable or disable a particular format from this menu here, and once you press save, that option will be saved as well. And you also have the ability to disable this setting completely, so that that no one can download your API spec file. This is according to your own personal preference and business need. So in this case, we're just going to show you how this option looks like once you have it enabled. So going on over to our portal. Here you can see I have the ability to download the API spec file in all of the sections that we specified earlier. And if we turn this option off, press save, and then preview again, then now a user should not have the ability to be able to download the API spec file. And as you can see, the option has completely gone away. Alright, so the next section to cover within the documentation section is called the step-by-step tutorial. So the step-by-step tutorial is a documentation page that we generate automatically against your API specification file. And it'll include information mentioned here like installing the SDK, initializing, authenticating, and all of that good stuff. So moving on over to our main documentation section, we have in our documentation section, we have things that we like to call sections, which we'll change. So the first thing is what we call a section. So this custom content one is a section, right? And within the section, you can add more pages or you can add more sections. So within custom content one, we have this page called welcome, and this welcome is our main documentation page. So API-matic supports GitHub flavored Markdown. So anything that is a feature of GitHub flavored Markdown, we also support it as well. So in the custom content one section, we've added another section called custom section. Called the second section, right? And in the second section, we've added a page called the second section page. By the way, this is our what you see is what you get editor. So any content that you add here will be rendered here on the right side as well. So you can see all of the information that you are adding here. Going into a little more detail about the things that you can add, we have a common text editor that has all of the standard tools that you might need. We also have the option to add tables, to add images, and if you want to add links, you can also do that. Inline code and code blocks are also an option that we support here. By the way, another cool thing about links is that you can also insert links. Let's just press save here. So another cool thing about links is that you can also insert or reference your own documentation portal. So for example, if I have an endpoint here, right, it's called the get calculate option. So I'd want to be able to link this within my documentation so a user knows what I'm talking about within the documentation, what I'm referencing. So if I press here, right, so I get this permalink here. So I can take this link and say this is my calculator endpoint. So now I want to link this to my endpoint, right? So I can just add the link there, and then I'll take this text and I'll add it here, and I'll add the link again here. So what this does is that it now dynamically links to our endpoint. So if we go on here and we go over to the documentation, here within the second section, the second page, we get our link to our endpoint. So in this way, you can link to different pages within the API-matic portal as well. So that also works very nicely here. Now looking at the other options that we have present within our editor and the host of options that we can use here, one of the other things that you can do is you can add as many sections and pages as you want. So there can be a combination of pages and sections, and that all starts to show up as a drop down. So like custom content 1, since there's another section within it, it ends up getting rendered as a drop down. Another cool thing that you can do here is that you can move all of these sections around. So you can move custom content 1 below custom content 2. You can take custom content 2 and move it below the models and API endpoints. So for example, if I want the endpoints to show up below before anything else, right? So now I've added the API endpoints to the custom content 2 section. I'll just move them up the hierarchy a little more, and now they're at the top. So if we go and hit preview, right? So this entire hierarchy on the left side should now look completely different. And as you can see, the endpoint is above, the custom sections are here, and then the models have been added to the bottom. Alright guys, so that was our tutorial on the documentation settings and the array of customization options that we allow within your APImatic portal. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at support@apimatic.io, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. Thank you.